Okay, hi everyone. I'm Steven Stromberg, CFO and COO of Bittrex Global, host of our video AMA today. And today we're featuring DigitalBits. And our guests are Al Burgio, who is the founder of DigitalBits and Zatar, and Michael Gord, who is the managing director of the XDB Foundation. Thanks for joining us today, guys. The Bittrex Global team is really excited about our partnership with DigitalBits. We're honored to be the first exchange to integrate the DigitalBits blockchain mainnet.
Stephen, thanks for having us today. We're really obviously excited to be here as well.
And we're glad we could have both of you today. So for these AMAs, we source a lot of questions from the Bittrex Global community, general crypto communities regarding the listing. So let's just jump in and see what they want to know about your projects. So the first question that we have, which is basically the audience wants to get to know you a bit. So let's start by getting to know you. Can you please tell us more about the core team and their backgrounds?
Yeah, so I'm happy to start. So I'm obviously here today in somewhat two capacities. I'm the founder of the DigitalBits project, which I founded in 2017, and it came out of, we took it out of stealth mode in 2018. And as well in 2019, founded a technology and fintech company called Zatar, which in 2020 came out of stealth as well. So just to speak in terms of Zatar, and I'll allow Michael to kind of describe the activities of the foundation and so forth. But relative to Zatar, we actually have a growing team to kind of just give the community a feel for the makeup. Our chief payments officer, for example, is a former executive vice president and senior vice president at a number of banks in the United States throughout his career. Our CTO is a pioneer in cybersecurity, also a very successful entrepreneur with some sizable exits. Our head of marketing, Tracy, has been a pioneer really early in the crypto community. A lot of people throughout the crypto community over the years have probably been to events hosted by Tracy, whether it's the Futures Conference in Toronto that she's created, which is to date still the largest blockchain conference in all of Canada, and as well helped co-create the ETH hackathon series, with the first launching, I think it was October 2017 in Waterloo, Canada, where we saw the winner of that hackathon, this little company at the time called Dapper Labs with CryptoKitties as the project that won at that event. So we have a really phenomenal growing team. We're adding people every month at Zatar at this point. Within Zatar as well, we've built out a full service production company that helps musical artists, celebrities, Fortune 1000 companies, and so forth produce, create, market NFTs as well. And our dedicated team there includes individuals that have worked for record labels for years, former professional athletes that have been working with celebrities and other personalities and representing them with major brands and so forth. So we really, Zatar as a whole is really grown in a relatively short period of time to be have diversified business units. We have our digital financial institution and a dedicated team there with the platform that we're building out, and as well other business units from NFT production and so forth. And overall, in terms of how we service clients, it's in many cases we have opportunities where we can kind of fully integrate the opportunity across our entire platform. So really excited about that. And then last but not least, as an organization, we are pro DigitalBits at Zatar, And in much of what we do, we look to leverage the protocol. So that's a bit about Zatara, some of the people at Zatara, and I guess last but not least myself. I've been a serial entrepreneur for quite some time. Prior to all of this, I founded a company called Console, and through Console, I pioneered what's known as software-defined interconnection across the global internet, which is now a multi-billion-dollar industry. Console was acquired in 2017. It was a phenomenal journey. We took Console to 23 countries. It's now in over 60 countries, and still the leading platform of its kind when it comes to interconnection. And through that experience, Console was able to very quickly get clients like Microsoft and Google, Amazon, and banking companies, and other financial institutions, and then gaming companies. So it was an interesting journey among the big web organizations, really to intersect across a variety of different industries, and that experience was fruitful from a number of ways, and really proud to be able to leverage a lot of that in what we're doing today.
That's amazing. So thank you for that. And Michael, do you want to maybe introduce yourself, talk a bit about XDB?
Sure, yeah. So my name is Michael Ward. I'm the managing director of the XDB Foundation. I'm an early adopter into digital assets, a serial entrepreneur, and an investor. I've been focused on mainstream adoption for the past 8 years, initially by hosting the largest global events still to this date, and now we're bringing those back. And then by working with multinational organizations like banks and governments, and then by building some of the largest digital asset networks in the world, several of which have gone on to become multi-unicorn networks. And now through my work at across the blockchain capital market, and specifically here with the XDB Foundation, which I've taken on a leadership role because I believe that the DigitalBits blockchain represents the single most likely way for digital assets to enter the mainstream through branded stablecoins, branded currencies, and consumer digital assets, inclusive of branded stablecoins. So excited to be here. Thanks for having me. Excited about this.
That's great. So why don't we dig into, so that's great. Thanks. It sounds like, really impressive team, and you guys have a lot of deep experience in blockchain. Anything over a year is like 100 years of blockchain. So that's amazing. You've done, 8, 9, and 10 years. So I think what the next question, what was the thinking behind DigitalBits introducing a new stablecoin to the market? So there's no shortage. And that's interesting. There is no shortage of stablecoins. So why a new one? What's your competitive advantage?
So it was actually, Zatar is one of the organizations that has contributed to creating a stablecoin. And we call that the Zatar dollar, AKA ZUSD. And we launched that towards the end of 2020, initially very quickly to go to market on the Ethereum blockchain, and also disclose at the time that we would be adding it to DigitalBits. So DigitalBits itself is not per se an entity launching stablecoins, but it's really a blockchain that has attracted the attention of organizations that with an interest in doing that. Actually, prior to Zatara, one of the first organizations to announce this, a similar thing was a company called Stably Corporation that a couple of years ago launched their stablecoin on a number of other protocols, and then announced their intention to put it as well on the DigitalBits protocol. So among other organizations, Zatar is one, Stably is another, that really identify, there's a lot, Ethereum, for example, is making headlines yet again, as it's done pretty much every year as it relates to gas fees and speed and so forth. And with the price of Ether keep going up, it's exciting to see, but it does correlate to gas fees being a point of friction. And so you have low throughput, high cost, and protocols like DigitalBits have high throughput, respectively speaking, and insanely low cost. in comparison. So they're much more ideally suited in comparison to blockchains like Ethereum to serve as a payment network, or more broadly speaking, in a network to transfer value. And stablecoins being a unit of value, it's really a nice blockchain for us at Zatar to have gravitated to. Obviously a bit biased in founding the protocol, but in all seriousness, I mean, it's evident in terms of the comparison of cost, speed, among other value proposition.
Great. Do you have anything you want to add to that, or did Al pretty much cover it?
Yeah, that was well said.
Okay, great. So we'll move on to our next question. Thanks for that. So we don't do a lot of bundled listings. I think folks are kind of curious. I think you touched on it a bit, but the relationship between DigitalBits XDB and the Zatar dollar ZUSD. What are the main utilities of XDB and ZUSD?
So obviously really excited to see that Bittrex Global has listed both. And I think in this crowd, what's slowly becoming a bit of a crowded a space of cryptocurrencies and other digital assets, to really do both, I think was really strategic and on the part of Bittrex Global to drive awareness to the correlation between the two. Among other things, the more adoption as we bring ZUSD to the DigitalBits blockchain, and the more we propagate that into platforms, into partner applications, and so forth, the common denominator currency for blockchains like DigitalBits or Ethereum is their native currency. In the case of Ethereum, it's Ether. In the case of DigitalBits, it's DigitalBits, the DigitalBits token. And so any asset that has high utilization, there's a correlation to the benefit that's derived in need and utility to the native currency. And so the natural relationship here is that you have a token representing the layer 1 protocol, and then you have a token as representing the US dollar, in this case, the digital US dollar that has been tokenized on that protocol. So in terms of ZUSD, in terms of its utility, in that case, for speaking for it, we created it really with the vision, what we like to say is money for the gaming industry and beyond. And really the bigger emphasis on beyond. So in no means with the focus of being limited to gaming, but gaming, esports and gaming was one of the first industries that we focused on and began partnering in. And, for example, there has been partner organizations such as a major esports team called Dignitas that has begun to utilize ZUSD in fan engagement. A much broader opportunity for ZUSD is the whole category of esports tournaments. Esports tournaments, if you think of esports relative to other professional sports, they tend to be confined to a geographical jurisdiction, right? There's a hockey game in a country, or there's a football game in a country, and the participants are local to that country. With esports, you have a global stage. You have people competing in video games from all over the world at any point in time, and you have winners of these tournaments. And dealing with tournament payouts for tournaments hosts is, pardon the expression, but it can be an absolute pain in the ass. And so dealing with bank accounts and procuring payment details for a variety of participants, where you could take as an alternative ZUSD as a programmatic currency. Parties don't require a bank account to receive ZUSD because it's on the blockchain. And as a result, it's also application agnostic. For example, you don't all need to be on PayPal using something that's not blockchain based. Parties can use their respective preference of stablecoin wallet or cryptocurrency wallet to receive, and that could be programmatic. It could be when banks are closed, right? So it's Sunday evening, 11 p.m., and programmatically payouts can occur. So for an industry like the gaming and esports space, that is a massive pain point that we had identified. It is a huge pain point. It's a global pain point. Beyond all of that, beyond even just fan engagement, opportunities to see currencies like ZST finding their way into in-game currencies, and in terms of the latest trend, NFT marketplaces. The ability to pay for NFTs in a dollar-denominated fashion is easy, I think, for the user to perceive value for what they're bidding on or buying. And while at the same time, ZSD, is bringing utility to the blockchains that it rides on. So those are, I think, among the main utilities for DigitalBits and XDB itself. You require the DigitalBits token to have functional use of an account on that blockchain, and the more functionality you want to have access to as it relates to the DigitalBits protocol, the more minimum deposit you would need of DigitalBits in your account. And then in addition to that, you need DigitalBits to pay for the transaction fees, on-chain transaction fees. And so those are among the uses for it. There are others as well, but those are amongst the primary uses for the DigitalBits token.
Great. So no, I think it's really interesting how the two sort of play off of each other. So the next question we have from the community: can you tell us about some of the major milestones your project has achieved?
Mike, do you want to go first?
Sure. So over the past couple months, we introduced a partnership with Stably, which is creating an out-of-the-box way for the brands that we are working with to create stablecoins. And I think probably have value for the people where brand stablecoins is new to them, to give 30 seconds on what that means and what they are. So for multinational brands, like for example, McDonald's, that hold billions in USD and dirham and euro and Oz dollar and yens and every currency that they operate in, they want to integrate blockchain and digital assets, or they will, because of the enormous cost savings of but there's no incentive for McDonald's to create or for McDonald's to provide incentive for their audience to use Bitcoins or Ethereum or Tether or any current stablecoin that exists. But what does have enormous value is, as mentioned, for their users and for their suppliers and for their ecosystem to start to transact on the blockchain, because they'll save billions of dollars in transaction fees. So what we are doing with branded stablecoins is providing the out-of-the-box functionality for an organization like McDonald's to collateralize their use on the blockchain, and that's what Zatar has done with the Zatar dollar, but also continuing with the McDonald's example, to create McBucks, for example, or McDollar, and then to have McCAD for Canada, McEuro for Europe, McPounds for England, McDurham for and which has no balance sheet risk for their suppliers, for their users that transact with McDonald's, but by their suppliers and their users participating in the McDollar ecosystem, McDonald's will see enormous savings. Their users will also support McDonald's, directly support McDonald's treasury and therefore McDonald's will be able to incentivize use of McDollars or McCAD or McYen by replacing their existing customer loyalty system with stable coins and these branded NFTs as the foundation of their new blockchain-based loyalty systems. So Stably was a very important milestone for us in providing that out-of-the-box functionality. Another significant milestone is that we recently announced that Lightmint, which is marketplace on the Stellar blockchain, is going to be also integrating DigitalBits and the NFT or DigitalBits NFTs as part of their marketplace. And I'm very excited about the NFT integration on DigitalBits and to create branded NFTs and kind of champion that whole segment of the consumer digital asset space, which is going to provide additional value to multinational brands wanting to build on the blockchain without the enormous transaction fees of Ethereum. And over the past couple months, we've seen the global expansion of the DigitalBits community with regional chapters opening up everywhere. We've participated in some of the biggest family office and capital markets events focused on blockchains. We have a lot packed in this commercialization phase, which started at the beginning of this quarter after mainnet was released, which also is a huge milestone after years of work. And this commercialization phase is now we have all of the pieces to begin to release the full vision of DigitalBits.
Great. Well, that's all exciting. I can't wait to go to McDonald's and use my McDollar, my McMuffin, and then get some NFT of like Ronald McDonald or something. So that sounds really cool. Go ahead, Al.
Yeah. Just to add, just in terms of major milestones that thus far that Zatar has achieved, I'd say personally, it has exceeded my expectations thus far this year. It's off the charts, and to kind of dive into it a bit. I know we've been spending a bit of time talking about stablecoins and so forth, but just to kind of shift focus, we really started partnering with esports organizations and high-profile gamers, etc., starting in 2020, and we began to unveil that at the start of this year. In terms of who some of those partners are. What began to occur during that process, we all started at the same time really engaging with musical artists that are known, very popular music artists are very well known in the esports world, often with live stream and so forth. And as a result of the awareness of our involvement, let's say, within the cryptocurrency community, as the trend emerged for NFTs, the sort of next wave, we started to get a tremendous amount of inbound. And what we've identified in the market is that there is a tremendous number of organizations, whether from Fortune 1000 to celebrities, musical artists, other high-profile influencers and personalities, are highly enthusiastic of being involved in this, but just didn't know how to navigate, frankly, didn't know who to trust. And so very quickly, we had built out a business unit, a company within Zatar, as I mentioned, Zatar Labs, again, the full service production company. And the team that we brought on there has already, to kind of put it in perspective, there are a number of NFT drops that have yielded 6 and 7 figures. And the team at Zatar has been behind those, in some cases prior to joining Zatar, but nonetheless, the experience there is very high profile, and again, yielding 6 and 7 figures throughout their time and in supporting various high profile drops. With that, we inherited a phenomenal pipeline that's continuing to grow. Recently, last week, it became public knowledge that Zatar is behind Dole. Dole, many know probably Dole Foods. Their charitable arm wanted to really do something with NFTs that would be for a good cause, and so they partnered with a very famous artist called David Tatuna, and the proceeds going from this NFT drop that's happening later this week are going to charity. But we really, we as an organization, we stepped in to really help all involved to navigate the entire ecosystem and really help bring that NFT campaign to life. So really proud of the team at Zatar, really being on the forefront of that. And that's simply just one example. Through the course of the next couple of weeks, there will be further announcements. So I would say these are achievements because they're done deal. in the sense of partnerships, just we'll be sharing the details surrounding these in the weeks to come, starting with next week, a very, very, very high, what I believe will be an insanely high profile NFT drop. It's that should get a tremendous amount of media coverage as well. So very quickly, as an organization, Zatar Labs has become a player in the NFT universe, and I think through the course of the next few weeks, that's going to be more publicly evident. And it's evident today simply by virtue of the roster of clients and organizations and individuals that we're supporting. So really proud of the traction that we have there. And ultimately, our plan, more holistically as it relates to NFT, that comes from that. So we're playing, not just supporting NFT drops, there's a number of initiatives and other things that we're doing categorically within that business unit. So in addition to that, our digital banking platform team and business unit, we have announced some of the partnerships. We've secured others with at a Fortune 500 level that will soon be announced, that we have ink dry on now, and among others. So a lot of great individuals, personalities really surrounding us, and how that all plays in providing, in some of our activities, providing utility to DigitalBits will soon become evident. So really, really proud of seeing marketplaces like Lightmint join that ecosystem. I think it's well timed and really forcing the agenda of other marketplaces to consider the same as well. So
great.
It's been great.
So actually, I was going to say, you're omniscient. You've covered, I think, what the audience was going to ask, the goals of your project and what you're sort of doing with NFTs for the next 6 months and a year. So I think that was really excellent. You've already covered that. So I'm going to skip ahead to the next question, which DeFi. So DeFi is such a hot topic these days. I mean, and NFTs, of course, but DeFi is a really hot topic. What are both of your thoughts on the DeFi space, and how do you plan for the projects to contribute to the DeFi space?
So I can touch on that briefly. So the entire DeFi ecosystem right now is collateralized liquid capital, primarily on the Ethereum blockchain. It's primarily liquid ETH, Tether, other stablecoins on ETH, and DAI. So with branded stablecoins, which will be by default liquid because it is fiat, there's no balance sheet risk, and supported by multinational enterprises, it's reasonable to assume that the entire DeFi ecosystem that's built on Ethereum now, with lending, insurance, exchanges, actually a decentralized exchange is out of the box on DigitalBits. But the entire DeFi ecosystem that is currently on Ethereum is reasonable to assume will be built on DigitalBits, leveraging the liquidity of branded stablecoins.
That's amazing. So, and then Al, do you have anything you want to add about DeFi? I mean, everyone has a comment on DeFi, so
Yeah, absolutely. Relative to how I see Zatara, long term, we are building a digital banking platform, and what we'd like to sort of categorize holistically Zatara as is a focus around building the digital financial institution of tomorrow, today. And with that, it's not just simply being a digital banking platform that supports, a place to people park and use their cash and invest and so forth. But it's the emerging categories of digital assets, from cryptocurrencies, let's say both fungible and non-fungible digital assets, right? And we're pretty optimistic that long term our vision will become reality there. As it relates to DeFi, there's a lot going on there, and long term, I would say that we would see an interest from Zatara platform users wanting to have access to that, right? And so by default, DeFi is out there. You can go find it and access it yourself, but to incorporate access through our user experience, I think it's just a natural thing for us to participate in as a digital platform, in given the arena that we're playing in. So,
right. So next question from the community, which is actually about the community itself. So community is important to every project, and we've received a lot of questions about it. How are you building your ecosystem of users, partners, content creators to spread your product in new and emerging markets? Are you using Telegram channels? Like, what's your main sort of?
Yeah, so Telegram is good to engage the existing community. We've also created localized communities, DigitalBits communities all over the world, in Canada and Asia, Australia, Holland, Belgium, Spain, and then language communities for specific languages, which we intend to continue with until we have a DigitalBits community in every country of the world and every language in the world. But as far as growth of the community, our focus, and Al mentions some of that we're starting to come to market with some very needle moving NFTs we're going to be doing that I anticipate bringing millions of eyeballs very quickly through the sheer scale of their communities. And these are not influencers. These are participants in our network. So by these organizations and individuals that have extremely large followings participating in our network, I anticipate bringing millions of eyeballs very quickly. I anticipate the scale of our community growing very drastically. And then also, as far as engaging the community, we're hosting and participating in industry-leading events like the NFT Summit, the upcoming Brand Blockchain Summit, the upcoming Gaming Summit, and DigitalBits is a participant in the global Next Top Blockchain Startup Competition, which has already activated over 15 leading academic institutions, which is not public. It will be shortly. But DigitalBits we're focused on the mass market, and the mass market is big brands, it's big influencers, and it's leading academic institutions, actually just all academic.
So you're using the NFT craze to kind of, which is hot right now, so that's a way to drive eyeballs since you're participating. And I just want to clarify, so when you said 6 and 7 figures for your NFTs, you're referring to dollars, not
dollars,
not Turkish lira. Okay.
Not Turkish lira. No, absolutely dollars. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. I think that's big money still
per drop. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So no, we have a phenomenal team, and it's an honor to be able to work with the colleagues that I have. From a Zatara standpoint, in terms of marketing activities and overall strategy, we really embraced what I would say, influencer marketing focus. and partner in integrating that into our partner strategy. So, for example, it started with our esports partnerships. We entered into minimum 3-year partnerships. They're exclusive. It gets us access to intellectual property, so we can use the brand of an esports team, the likeness of the entire roster into our user experience for a digital banking platform. That's where it all started for us initially. In addition to that, these are organizations and individual pro players and content creators already with pre-existing social channels with large followings. And so it didn't require us to really think through how we're going to create our own day one, build that audience. These pre-existing audiences that our partners had, creating branded experiences and then having our product market through their channels. So in essence, think of it like product placement in a sense. They're using their branded version of a Zatar product, the Zatar banking platform, and in live streams, in social campaigns, and this is occurring each and every quarter. So it started with that, and it has grown in terms of a roster for us beyond just esports organizations to musical personalities, and now with the integration into our strategy related to NFTs, it's a much even broader ecosystem. I mean, musical artists at an individual level with over 100 million followers. One art. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. Mind-blowing, I would say, numbers. And so having partners like that and us being overly, thinking through it strategically, how we could leverage that in not only promoting our brand, but our product or products in some cases where it's multifaceted to partnerships is really been a strategy that we define, and we've been executing towards it excellently. I mean, by virtue of what we've achieved. And, as I indicated, we next week in particular, we'll kind of foreshadow the caliber, and it's just going to continue throughout May. May is a really big month for us at Zatar in terms of a lot of big announcements that we'll be making in the NFT sphere and so forth.
Great. I think you kind of touched as well in the last question, which is, what are your plans to educate and raise awareness and adoption among the global community? So it sounds like you're going to continue to focus on NFTs and using your corporate partners and leveraging off of their communities. Is there anything else? It sounds like you're also doing.
Yeah, Michael has an incredible background in facilitating and fostering education and in blockchain, and I think it'd be good. He might have covered it in his bio, but that experience and how he's bringing that to the XDB Foundation and so forth, it's really incredible to watch, and I think it'd be great to hear Michael talk more about it.
Yeah, in addition to celebrities for NFTs and multinational organizations for both NFTs and branded stables, as mentioned, we intend to be collaborating with leading academic institutions around the world. We already have 15 participating in the next top blockchain startup competition that is starting in June. I anticipate there being over 25, maybe 50 leading academic institutions participating in every continent, not 50 in each continent, but globally, I think we could get up to 50 academic institutions participating. Also online education courses. And by collaborating with organizations like the Kerala Blockchain Academy, which is a nonprofit organization I co-founded with the government of India that is currently training tens of thousands of blockchain developers at all times in India, recently raised capital from Bill and Melinda Gates, and just signed up as a partner for the global Next Top Blockchain startup competition. So by plugging into these existing ecosystems that we already have close relationships with, I anticipate, and plus with multinational enterprises and celebrities, I anticipate the education curve becoming exponential.
Well, it sounds like you guys have your hands in a lot of pots. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to talk again in 6 months, a year, and see how far you've come. And I think, we talk a lot about on these podcasts and these AMAs about, from the Bittrex perspective, I think, convergence in financial markets between like traditional banking and blockchain. And it sounds like you're trying to do the same for more corporates, which is great to see. I think there's going to be convergence of everything. So, well, thank you, again, to both of you, Al, Michael, and DigitalBits and XDB for joining us today in the AMA. Always great to chat about really interesting projects. If our listeners want to learn more about DigitalBits, please go to digitalbits.io. And thank you again, DigitalBits, Al and Michael.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Bittrex Global.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Bittrex.